My name is Dr. John Mason. I'm with Masters of the Journey. I have a very special guest with me today, Jeni Miller. She's agreed to do an interview, a special interview, and we'll tell you about that in just a moment, to add to our library of information and resources for the members of Masters of the Journey. So let me introduce Jeni Miller. She is a medical support, clinical hypnotherapist, and a bliss-born birth hypnosis educator. For over 17 years, she has been an international teacher, a mentor, retreat facilitator, published writer, and mind-body-spirit practitioner. She specializes in hypnotherapy for fertility, pregnancy, and childbirth. Jeni is passionate about empowering her clients to create the birth that they desire. She believes peace on earth begins with peaceful birth. Jeni has a private practice in Bellingham, Washington, and teaches classes in person, over the phone, and via Skype. For more information, and we will repeat this later, you can view her information at www.blissfuleasybirth.com. That's all one word, www.blissfuleasybirth.com. So I want to welcome Jeni today, and I want to start by asking a question. You mentioned that you believe peace on earth begins with peaceful birth. Can you say more about this?
Yes. Hi, John. Thank you for this opportunity to share something that's really near and dear to my heart. I do believe peace on earth begins with peaceful birth, and it's because television and movies often depict birth as a medical emergency with a flurry of confusion and panic and fear, and usually a very ineffective birth partner and a suffering woman who's writhing in pain. And I've sat with the question, well, what if birth could be easier and more comfortable, empowering, and blissful instead? And I do believe that's absolutely possible. Babies are imprinted both in their cells as well as in their subconscious minds. And those deep impressions, those imprints, really formulate how we perceive and view the world. And so with an experience of being born with a lot of fear around, a lot of panic, a lot of pain, then that's just setting one up, I believe, for that experience to carry throughout their lives.
So let me ask, because I'm interested in that. In my second book, I did write about stress and anxiety management for prenatal care, and we're going to be talking more about that in this interview. But the peaceful birth, could you imagine or look forward and have any reports from moms about their babies, or maybe even the development of their babies as calm or even more conscious spiritual beings later in life? I don't know if you know that, but could you just address that?
Sure. Well, I believe that we come from love. We are love at our core. And I think when it's covered over with a lot of fear and pain and anxiety, then we forget what our true nature really is. And during the birth process, when the mom is relaxed, when she's calm, when she's peaceful, when she's feeling very open and in that space of her natural instincts, which include love, then the baby's going to experience that as well. And so I believe that if we had more of us coming onto this planet and into the world from that space, then it really makes a difference to how we view and interact with life.
Great. And any reports that you've had as far as afterbirth, not the physical afterbirth, but the emotional life after a child is born?
Yes, a lot of the women that I have worked with have reported back to me that their babies seem really calm and peaceful, even past the first year, which I'm sure is a real blessing for all involved. Yeah. And also APGAR scores tend to be higher. There's research that's being done right now on development and all of those pieces cognitively. And, you know, I think when we are in that natural state of calm and peace, then everything in the body works more optimally as it should.
Great. I'm really looking forward to diving into this with you and even talking about the use of hypnosis and stress and anxiety management prenatally and how it affects both the mom and the baby. But before I do, we talk about that. How did you get interested in hypnosis for birth?
Well, a number of years ago, I had a session with a hypnotherapist. And in that session, I actually went back and revisited through a natal regression my birth experience. And as is common for so many of us, it was very traumatic for both my mother and for myself. And there was pain, there was a lot of fear, and my mother had initially wanted to have a natural birth, but because of a variety of circumstances, she was medicated, and actually that was against her desire. And so it was one of those situations where she felt a lot of anger about the feeling of not consenting to that intervention. And so all of those emotions that she was feeling, the anger, the pain, the distress, was passed on to me, because when babies are connected to their mothers that intimately, both physically as well as emotionally, then the baby takes on those emotions, assuming that they're theirs. And so anyway, during this natal regression, I did have experiences of that whole birth process. And when I came away from that session, I was really amazed at how many beliefs, thoughts that I accepted or decided as a result of that particular event in my life. And yes, it was through perception, but it's also set up how I was interacting with the whole life experience itself. So that was a very defining moment for me to have had that experience. And coming out of that, all I could think of was, what if, as a part of my desire to bring more consciousness, just from the standpoint of helping people move through different levels of awareness and consciousness and be a change agent on this planet, what if I could assist women to feel more empowered about the birth process and also the babies as a result? And again, that whole concept of, wow, peace on earth begins with peaceful birth started to really seed itself and bloom within my awareness of how I could help women and babies and make some differences in life.
You know, I really sense, and I know this about you, your passion for doing this work and the motivation to assist women who are maybe fearful or anxious about an upcoming birth. Maybe it's their first, or maybe they've had a problem birth in the past, and they want to have a different experience. And I love that you're doing this work, but could we start with something a little bit more basic? You know, what is hypnosis and how might it work in this situation?
That's a very good question. Hypnosis is a natural yet altered state of mind. And there's a lot of mystery around what hypnosis is, but in actuality, it's something that we move in and out of very easily throughout our day. So, for example, when we are in our regular thinking mind, scientists and medical professionals show that we're in what's called a beta cycle of brainwave activity. When we go into a state of daydreaming, or we become very focused on a project or a hobby, or even some athletes talk about getting in the zone, that is a different state of awareness. And our brain waves typically shift from our normal beta to perhaps an alpha, or even a deeper state than that, like theta. So hypnosis typically is a relaxed state of both mind and body, and it's also a state where we can access the subconscious mind and make changes to the subconscious. So it's a natural state, it's a different level of awareness, and it's a way in which we can really access the subconscious mind.
Great. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the specifics for that. I know that the state of hypnosis is one where people can focus on their body, get kind of more aware, maybe even in control of the stress or the anxiety. And from my own personal experience and the training that I did with Dr. David Cheek, who is an OBGYN who uses hypnotherapy, he suggested that even prenatally, the health of the mother, the feeding, and the health of the baby benefited from stress and anxiety management, like hypnosis or other stress techniques, biofeedback or whatever, in those as early in the pregnancy as possible. So do you have an opinion on helping women and the babies prenatally?
Oh, absolutely, because I do think the health of the mother, whether it's what is going on for her emotionally or even physiologically, definitely has an effect on the baby's development. And there's a lot of evidence that is starting to emerge about how consciousness of a being does happen in utero. And so, again, as I said earlier, there isn't a real barrier between mom and me from the baby's perspective. So what mom's feeling, baby is feeling too, because there isn't a barrier between, or a discernment factor or filter available to the young one. And also they're going to pick up whatever hormones or chemicals that mom is experiencing in her body. So when we're in a state of stress or anxiety, the adrenaline is higher and there's cortisol flowing. Well, then that, whether it's actually in the birth or prenatally, that is being imprinted into the baby's system, on their nervous systems, going into their cells, and then going into their subconscious mind.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I've also heard that the birth weight of the baby can be higher if a mom is more relaxed prenatally, and maybe going full term is easier to do when there's not the stress and the anxiety involved. So let me ask you about that. How does hypnosis help labor and delivery? And like, what would you see as something you'd like to say as a benefit?
Oh, I think there are numerous benefits. And first of all, let me back up a moment, if it's all right with you, and just talk a little bit. I've been talking around it, that we have a subconscious mind. And for those of out there that maybe aren't familiar with how important the subconscious mind, let me just bring some light to that. The subconscious mind is really that part of us that where our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our patterns are all stored. And it's also that part of our mind that controls our physical body. And so with over 90% of our mind being our subconscious mind, it's really a very powerful tool that we have, a part of us that we have. And hypnosis is really a self-help tool. And as we said earlier, it's a way through hypnosis we can access the subconscious mind. Well, the subconscious mind controls birth. And so if one is working in concert with natural instincts and with what our body and mind is initially designed to do, rather than fighting against it, which can often happen when we're in fear and when we're in pain or anxious, then when we're working in concert, then everything progresses more easily, typically.
And progressing more easily, maybe even more quickly, without as much pain and anxiety and distress. That seems to be critical. So that brings me to this question, which we've talked about a little bit. How does hypnosis work in the birth scenario?
Right. Well, first of all, there is relaxation. So when one is relaxing their body, then in the birth process, the relaxed body, the muscles, etc., can open more fully. And again, one isn't trying to resist or push away from it. In fact, you may be familiar from your work and your study of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, have heard about the fear, tension, pain cycle. Well, quite often what can happen in a birth scenario for a mother who hasn't maybe done some of this kind of training, she might be afraid of either experiencing pain or afraid of becoming a mother, or she may have had a previous birth experience where that brings up some fear. So when we're in fear, we tense our muscles and they don't become efficient, and we cut off blood flow, etc. Well, that tension can lead to pain, and then that pain can lead to more fear, to more tension, to more pain. So when we use hypnosis, we can work with the subconscious mind to actually break the fear, tension, pain cycle at each of those points. So with hypnosis, we can induce a deeper state of relaxation, as I had mentioned a moment ago. And with the relaxed body and the relaxed mind, then there is the opportunity to access more of that peaceful, calm, and even more of that self-confidence and that sense of well-being. When we do the work in some of the in-person and class work that I teach, we spend a lot of time looking at the whole concept of fear and how is it that we maybe address some of those things that bring up fear, both on the subconscious and on the conscious level, so that that's not standing in the way, creating that fear, tension, pain cycle to begin with. So we deal with it before the actual birth process unfolds. We're also, because we're talking about the subconscious mind, we can go in and we can program the mind for what it is that we are choosing. So by spending time imagining the ideal birth scenario, that's giving the subconscious mind and the body a carrot to go towards rather than something that we might be fearful of. We also can program the body to instantly go into a state of deep relaxation. We can program, as I said, the body to be holding a more positive state rather than one that's fearful. And I've seen where it's possible for moms to have painless or a very reduced pain birth. They've been able to shorten their birth time because their muscles are much more efficient and their bodies have opened more easily, so shortening birth. I've also seen moms use hypnosis to assist them in turning a breech baby. And in some instances, I've had some moms that were told that if X, Y, and Z didn't happen, then there might have to be an intervention. So I've seen moms be able to actually work with their mind and body and baby to progress and start a birth situation.
You know, I need to share a personal experience because I took this training early in my career with Dr. David Cheek.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your words, and you're not responsible for what I'm going to say, but he suggested that a normal labor and delivery should only be about 3 hours. And of course, I heard him say that, and I didn't believe what he was saying because I didn't have any personal experience, and I didn't want to make promises like that. But somehow, accidentally, my wife got pregnant. I think I was involved, but anyhow, so early in the first trimester, we started doing visualization and hypnosis, and we were, again, like you say, programming with suggestion that it would be an easy birth that would take 3 hours or less. And when the day came, which was a week earlier than I had expected. I was kind of stressed out. We get to the hospital, and the birth happened in about 3.5 hours from the time that the contractions really began. The thing that I didn't say is that that baby was 9 pounds 4 ounces. So that was kind of a large baby, which needed to come a week early, or at least in my math, it was a week early. And she did relatively well with that, but you know, it's still intense, but it seemed to be a faster and progressed, as you said, more easily. So how does the hypnosis, do you think, benefit the baby?
Well, I think that, again, if mom is calm and peaceful, then they aren't getting those hormones being passed on. The baby's not getting hormones passed on to them that are the cortisol and the adrenaline. So they stay calm and peaceful, and they don't go into distress. I think what happens oftentimes in birth scenarios is if mom is not progressing, or if the medical healthcare professional believes that there might be some danger to mom or to baby, then they are going to recommend interventions. But as long as mom is progressing and baby's showing no distress, then, you know, hands off. Healthcare practitioners go and say, great, fine, do what you need to do. And a lot of the moms that I've worked with have shortened their births. I haven't heard of at this point, but one that has been even less than 3 hours. But a lot of them are around that 4, 5, 6 hour generally average. Of course, there are some that go on longer. But again, with a mom using hypnosis, it's possible for her to conserve her energy, to have her muscles, you know, have what it needs to take. She doesn't feel exhausted. And also in hypnosis, one can create time distortion. And so that can work to the advantage of the mom, so that it may be 10 minutes have passed on the clock, but she only experiences it as a minute. So those are, again, a little, you know, few pieces in how hypnosis can be beneficial for birth.
You know, and I love what you're saying, because once the mother has the skills and the baby may have felt them or learned them inter-uterine, sometimes post-birth, mom and the baby might be able to use some of these tools and techniques to control some of the fatigue or the tiredness, the anxiety, the sleep, perhaps issues that can come after the baby is out in the world.
Absolutely. And I tell all the people who go through my training that while we're focusing on the context of birth, because that's why they're really learning, once they learn how to work with the subconscious mind, how to access it and work with it, then basically they're unstoppable. So what I'm teaching them is a set of life skills. And so I do have moms reporting back that they are using what they learned in the class postpartum, so that they're helping to speed the recovery time and the healing of their bodies. And they are using the hypnosis to assist them in breastfeeding. They're using the hypnosis to assist them in giving them that deep relaxation when, you know, everybody in the household's adjusting to new time schedules and sleep schedules, et cetera, or no sleep schedules. And so that can be beneficial. And I had one woman report back to me recently that she's really looking forward to how she can work with her child and teach them some of what they learned in the class, so that their child has a different sense of belonging in the world and has a higher sense of self-esteem, etc. So there are all sorts of ways in which these skills can be applied, and they do carry out to postpartum.
Well, certainly the children are not growing up in a less stressful world. So as early as possible, giving them the skills to manage their stress and their anxiety, to perhaps focus even better. Uh, those are wonderful. Let me ask you, when a person comes to you, are they sent by a labor coach or a midwife or the medical system, or do they just seek you out as because of individual interest?
Well, I think that's a combination. I've had midwives and doulas refer their clients to me. I've had OBGYNs refer their patients to me. I've had people that have Googled hypnosis for birth, and they've come across my website, etc. So I have people contact me in a variety of ways. A lot of times it's, I would say it's probably someone's either read a book or heard a story or just have this, true knowing that labor and birth doesn't have to be like what we've been brainwashed or hypnotized to believe that it is in our culture. And I remember when I was studying in school, one of my areas of interest was different cultures. And I thought, wow, it's really interesting that in a number of areas of the world, birth is celebrated differently than the way in which we typically do, where women gather around the woman who's in labor and they sing and they dance and they cook and it's a whole community experience, and it's not something to necessarily be feared or yes, I want the baby, but I don't want to go through the experience. Whereas it tends to be different in our culture. So I think that there are women out there that are thinking, something. I sense that my body knows how to do this. I mean, we've been giving birth. Women have been giving birth for how many generations and how many thousands of years. And so how can I harness what my body already knows? How can I get out of the way? And so they start looking at, okay, how can I optimize that possibility? And, oh, here's some training. Let me go look into that.
What kind of techniques, without giving everything away or trying to teach a birth class right now, what kind of techniques might people expect? I mean, would it be like breathing techniques or visualization, or what kind of things?
Well, what I do, and that's really good. I mean, I think that there are a lot of birth education classes out there. Of course, I believe so strongly, and I've seen the amazing things that women have been able to do within birthing, and sometimes in what would initially seem like some really interesting experiences, and yet they've been able to feel like they and empowered and like they could control that experience, even though it's kind of an interesting double-edged sword where you're trying to control but also release and relax and also do those things where you're surrendering. But what I really focus on is how to work with the mind-body connection. And so I believe if somebody is looking for that kind of training, look for somebody who can really guide you to do that. And so I recommend going to a clinical hypnotherapist, somebody who really understands that mind-body connection, how to access the subconscious mind, and how to really work with you to overcome your fears. Also, because of that, I think it's really important to look for a class that's going to go into therapeutic hypnosis and real deep hypnosis, and also to work with someone who has a class that's set up where you would take a lot of the class time to actually experience that state of deep relaxation, because that builds confidence and then also allows one to be able to re-enter that state more quickly and easily because there is that confidence. So the first class typically is focused on going in, learning how to access that state of hypnosis, and with practice being able to do it at the start of a contraction or whenever one really feels like they want to do that. I spend a lot of time working in the second class with the birth partners so that they understand what their role is, and so that there can really also be conversation between the mom and the partner, so that everybody's reading off the same page, if you understand what I'm saying about that. And so we're working with self-hypnosis. We then also work in the third class on identifying what some of the fears might be that are standing in the way or could stand in the way in the birth process. And so we do some work both in hypnosis and out of hypnosis to release those fears so that they're not there. We do some work with kinesthetic anchors in order to create an even deeper state of hypnosis and also a state of increased calm and confidence. We also work with some of the same techniques I was trained in working with people that have chronic pain. And so these are tools that, while in hypnosis, can either eliminate or greatly reduce the experience of the sensations that occur during birth. And so those are techniques that are, and some of these are probably things that you might be familiar with from your training. And then the last class really kind of wraps it all together. The materials that come with the class that I teach are very, very modern. They're very extensive. They have illustrations of different birth positions. In class, we have the mom get up and walk around and learn how to get more comfortable being in that state of hypnosis with her eyes open so that she can shift positions during birth. And we also have all sorts of fun things that we do. I just kind of rambled there, but those are some of the things that we cover in the classes that I teach.
I love what you're offering, a chance for the mom, their birth support people, to be relaxed and to be present, to understand that concept of passive volition. In other words, controlling, but not by putting effort in, by just allowing yourself to focus on things, which is real important prenatally as well as with labor and delivery. And certainly then as a parent, later on, when you don't always have control over what your child gets into, but you still love them. And you're bringing in this beautiful soul and spirit, the spiritual being. And why not invite it with love and with grace, with the use of hypnosis and stress management, and a mother that may feel like she has a little bit more control than she might have known before she learned the practice of hypnosis.
Well, one of the things that I notice and that I love about the classes I teach, it's a 5-week course typically, unless we have to compress it for whatever reason. But usually over those 5 weeks, I see mom and birth partner come in that first class, and sometimes there's this, I don't know about this, and is this really going to work? Is this really going to help me? I don't know. And after that first class, there's usually, oh, wow, I did have an experience. And, oh, wow, this is natural and this isn't weird. And this is okay. And then the support materials help give them a lot of that good brain candy that a lot of us want to know about the science of how this all works. I review it in the beginning of the class, but it's a lot to absorb. And then as the 5 weeks progress, it's always so beautiful to me to see the level of confidence that grows, and how the couples quite often, if it's a husband and wife or a girlfriend and boyfriend or a girlfriend and girlfriend, how oftentimes those bonds get even stronger, and the communication opens and flourishes. And it's an opportunity for mom, because a lot of women are working moms, or have other children, and so this is a time in their week that they can come and they can actually focus on the baby that's due in a few weeks, and really connect and bond with that being in a way that's very profound. And so it's just really delightful to watch the progression of how the confidence builds and grows. And I've had women walk out of my class and they're excited about birth, rather than, maybe at the start of class, they were either hesitant or kind of dreading it. Here they are, they're going, yeah, I'm going to rock birth. I can't wait. Bring it on. And so it's always very rewarding to see that progression, and then to follow up with them afterwards and hear about what it is that they were able to do. And a lot of times it's like, this so met or exceeded my birth blueprint. Because I talk a lot about how they're creating a blueprint for their birth. Right. And so it's always, it's wonderful to be a part of that.
Well, you're again demonstrating your passion and your love and your motivation. We're going to start winding this down a little bit, but I invite you to contact Jeni Miller. That's Jeni Miller, as in Miller. And her website is at www.blissfuleasybirth.com. And the Masters of the Journey really loves and supports not only this work that you're doing, but we're also well aware of all of the other ways that you help guide consciousness development, spiritual development, and the sense of community that we have as we explore our spirit together. Would you like to just say anything as we're winding this down, Jeni?
I just want to thank you for taking time to let me speak so passionately about part of my mission. And I really invite those moms out there, those wannabe moms out there, to contact me if you have any questions about how hypnosis and birth can assist you in creating what it is that you really desire with regards to your birth.
And we said in the introduction that sometimes stress and anxiety gets in the way of fertility. And I've had some personal experience. I think that women that are anxious about getting pregnant might be able to benefit from relaxing and developing the skills that hypnosis can give them as well. And would you be open, Jeni, to chatting with people about that?
I definitely would. Yes. Thank you, John.
Great. Well, again, this is Jeni Miller, and she's speaking to us, the Masters of the Journey. I really thank you for coming on, for sharing your information, your passion, your love and celebration of women and families, both prenatally, during birth, and the parenting that comes after that. So thanks again, Jeni, and we'll see you in the future, because we'll probably be doing some follow-up programs with some of the other great work that you do. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, John.